Everybody in my life is coupled up right now besides me. They are all signing leases, getting engaged, and planning weddings. When did we become adults? What percentage of these couples do you think will actually get married? Is there a phase in our early 20s where people just like playing house? Story 1. I think here in Utah it's a lot different due to the Mormon community. I know people who got married the day after graduating high school, others within their first year or so of college. I am 23, female, and the majority of the people I grew up with are married, with and without children, and are planning for more children, building houses, etc. Since I am not religious, I got a dog instead. Story 2. Like 90% from my experience that said I'm about to turn 30 and just started a new relationship. I was in one previously for 6 years before I realized it wasn't right and broke things off. I'm not saying you are, but don't compare yourself to others. Everyone is running their own race. If you try to rush it, you will end up settling for someone rather than the one. Story 3. We are all in our 40s to 50s. Out of the 11 people I keep in touch with enough to do at least 2 dinners a year with, 10 out of 11 met their spouse in their 20s and married before their 30s. 1 was never married. 2 out of 11 are still together. 1 out of those 2 is on thin ice and has had some "we are calling it quits" talks a few times. Everyone else is remarried or in multi-year live-in relationships now with someone they met at work. Story 4. I married my ex-husband at 20 and divorced at 21. It's not always a good thing to get married young. People do things at different paces. Most of my friends are not married and don't have kids yet. We are all in our mid to late 20s and early 30s. Only recently, one of my close friends got pregnant at 37. Story 5. All but 2 are in a couple. None are married yet, but 2 are engaged, and 1 has a child. This kind of sucks because they do couple things all the time, so I keep getting left out. Only one of my single friends actually comes out now, so it's not ideal. I need more single friends. Story 6. Honestly, I'm the one in my friend group that met the love of my life early. My wife and I met as sophomores in college when I was 20, and she was just a few weeks shy of 20 herself. Married at 25, now both 34 with the whole house, 3 kids, dog, and stable jobs thing. Almost all of my friends, except for 2 that married their high school sweetheart each other, didn't get married until well after I did, and I think about half are still single or are on the other side of long-term relationships that went south. Don't focus on what your friends are doing, shitty sounding advice, I know. Just try and do your own thing, man. If you're basing your love life off of other people's expectations or life benchmarks, then you're setting yourself up to have shit relationships and ultimately a really bad time. Focus on what makes you happy, stay healthy, and work out somehow if you can, and you'll find someone, or they'll find you, eventually. When you come across that person, you'll be able to convince them they should stick with you if you're being yourself. Story 7. This hit a bit of a soft spot for me, so here's a summary. Do not panic because people are coupling up in your early 20s and think that's what you're supposed to do. Do not rush into something you do not really want. Cliché as it is, life has many roads, and comparing your path to others will only make you miserable. Your problem here is not your friends getting coupled up. It is you looking at their lives and using it as a benchmark for your own. Stop it. Do not compare yourself to others constantly because it will only cause you trouble. You will either force yourself into a situation you are not ready for or truly want. For example, my friends are getting married, so I better settle with the first girl I find who is willing to say yes. Or you will make yourself miserable because someone else has something you don't. Do not get me wrong. It is hard, especially in your 20s, but at the end of the day, stop comparing your life to others and focus on what you truly want for yourself and make it happen. I spent most of my 20s getting a worthless degree and staying in relationships that slowly poisoned me because I felt like that was what I was supposed to do instead of doing what was best for me or what I wanted. Now, at 32, I am in a happy relationship, have a great paying career, and am finally content with life. Meanwhile, I have old friends who got married at 22, who I was so jealous of at the time, who are now getting divorces. Isn't life weird? Story 8. I don't have many people in my life that I would consider close friends, so the ones I do are as follows. One friend is 28 years old, married with 2 kids. Another friend is 27 years old, married, and recently had their first child. One is 24 years old, has been in a relationship for about 3 years, and is currently living with their partner, predicting they'll get married. A friend who is 21 years old is basically engaged, although I don't really count her as we have drifted apart recently. At 27 years old, another friend recently became single after a 3-year relationship. Finally, someone who is 20 years old is the only other person I know who struggles to find a stable relationship. Story 9, probably around 80%. It's mostly friends from university, and most of us met our current partners during that time in my group of friends. Even I'm a bit baffled as to how many of those have lasted this long, but I guess it makes sense. As for marriage, that's a culturally difficult thing to answer. I'm Swedish, so that progression is normally date for a long time, then have a kid, then get married, and there's not as much cultural pressure to marry. But from all the university relationships I know, they've all lasted about the same time as my own, which is coming up on 15 years now. The remaining 20% have found their partners mostly on Tinder after the long-term relationships they formed in their early 20s have ended. Story 10. Yeah, my experience does not fit the conventional wisdom. First off, I am 66 years old. I met my wife at 16 and have been together ever since. I have 2 good friends, both my age, who met their wives before I met mine. Those couples are still happily married. The other 3 guys in my close friend group met women in their early 20s. All 3 are divorced. Weird. Story 11. I'm 25 and have never been in a relationship. My colleagues, who are around the same age, are dating and have relationships, but most aren't planning to move in together right now. There's one guy I know who is living with his girlfriend, but they've been together for 6 years now. I had a point I wanted to make, but I forgot. Story 12. Most of my friends, myself included, have had kids and or gotten married between the ages of 28 and 35. I've been to at least 5 weddings, and only 2 couples are still married. So 0% have stayed together. But I guess it's pretty normal in my country to do it past 25, and from statistics I've read that the average age for having kids here is 30. Story 13. I'm only 20, and most of my friends are already planning their weddings, whether they have met their partners or not. I also ask myself the same thing. When did we grow so old? I've been dating a guy for a year. I love him and all, but I still can't imagine getting married for at least a few years. Early 20s is such a weird age. Story 14. I'm only 22, but I hope all my friends get married before me, honestly. I want to celebrate with them, and I'm in no hurry to be married to someone. Besides, I don't want to have kids, so marriage for me is going to have to be with someone who really improves my life because it's just going to be the 2 of us. My point is, no worries, man. Just chill at your own pace. Life's not an Xbox game with accomplishments to achieve. Story 15. I'm 35 here. Met my wife when I was 24. All but one of my close friends also met their husbands or wives around that time, plus or minus a year. Not sure if that's the norm, but that's my experience. Story 16. My sister and her boyfriend are both 20. They met in their 20s. They are engaged, bought a house, and have a baby. A friend and her husband met as teenagers. They are married. They spent some time apart while dating. Then he came back and proposed. They got engaged and married a year later. They've been together for a while, excluding the few months they were broken up, and a few people who know them are surprised they are still together. No one is expecting it to last. My mom married her first husband in her 20s. They divorced and she met my dad. My grandmother married her husband in her 20s. She was with him until he died. I met my partner when I was 21. He was 32. We've been together for 7 years now. Some people find love young, and some when they're older. Some find love with their first partner, while others have several relationships before finding the one. The thing is, it doesn't matter when you find it as long as you're happy. Story 17. I was engaged at 22 but never married. I didn't get married to a different girl until I was 30. My brother is 30 and just proposed to his 23-year-old girlfriend of 4 years. Story 18. Yes, the whole let's play house thing is very much a social norm these days. People are encouraged to get married, buy a house, and have 2 kids by 30. I can say that almost all my friends who did this, me included, are now divorced or going through one. That house you bought as your forever home when you were married, it will become an asset to negotiate on in divorce and cost you money to do so. Your 2 kids you had, they now have to adjust to 2 homes and struggle as young minds to accept it wasn't their fault. And the debt you'll end up with because of the divorce, it will take years to come out of. So take your time. Get a good foundation of who you really are. Know what you want to be, and where you want to go in life. Make sure you know what you are willing to bend on in regards to this, and what things you want to stand strong on. Set boundaries for it and don't bend them because you are in love. Figure out how you want to be loved and how you show it. Find someone who accepts this and gives back respectfully this way. It's okay not to find your person right now. Find yourself first and everything will fall into place in time. Best of luck, and I wish you the best. Story 19. I am the only one in my immediate friend group who is in a committed relationship. My partner and I got together 5 years ago. I only have one friend outside of my group who is in a serious relationship. Story 20. A lot of my friends met their spouse in their early 20s, about 85%. However, I grew up in a small town, so people did everything early. A lot of people I know had kids in high school. I had several friends who had 5 kids by 25. On the other hand, I am 31 and not married and have never been. My boyfriend is 43 and he hasn't been married either. We are just enjoying our time together. I don't really want kids, so I'm in no rush for marriage or living together. When I was 25, I was in a relationship where I lived with my partner at the time. He was abusive, so I learned the importance of choosing a good person to settle down with. Story 21. I am 24 in a semi-big city as an engineer. No engaged friends at all. But looking at those who stayed in my small hometown, some are married, and most people are in relationships. You will find different people have different friend groups depending on religion, their job, etc., so it is really hard to generalize here. Story 22. Are you based in America? I find all of my American friends, especially women, are looking to be married before they hit 25. In Europe, where I am from, there are about 5 people from my school year of around 200 who are married. I am in my late 20s. Story 23. Female, 25 years old here, but I have an equal number of male and female friends. Age range varies from 25 to 28. 20% are in relationships, and only one couple I know is married. There was a significant wave of breakups from 2019 to 2020. I just started a relationship last year and am planning on an engagement next year, but that's mainly because my culture encourages marriage. I would love to wait a few more years, but it doesn't seem likely. I'm also in a big liberal city, so marriage typically happens after 30. It seems like 25, which is considered the quarter-life crisis age, triggers a significant change in relationships, whether it's breaking up or getting married. Story 24. I would say about 10%, but friends from around then are mostly artsy types with Peter Pan complex, so I guess that makes it more of an outlier. I wouldn't worry about it too much. If you find someone who makes you happy, go for it. If not, then don't. My parents met young, married, and literally married the love of their life. They got lucky. My grandparents hated each other for 70 years, all for the sake of appearance. Life is short. Look after yourself and take happiness where you find it. Story 25. I met my wife at 21 and got married at 26. Most of my friends who are currently in long-term relationships met their significant others in mid-college or around college age, though not all of them went to college. 4 of my longest-time friends are in long-term relationships that started in their early 20s. 2 of the couples are married, while the other 2 live together and plan to eventually get married, but aren't in a hurry. The rest of my friend group is mostly perpetually single, mostly guys who have either had no romantic relationships in years or have short flings that last a few months. For context, we are all pushing 30 now. Story 26. I am 24. I strongly believe that whoever gets married in their early 20s is very immature and trying to appear as real grown-ups. People change. They change a lot in their 20s, and deciding to marry when you have major changes in your personality ahead is just not very wise. I also don't find those couples to be very good matches usually. Usually, the story is, we met a year ago and love each other so much we want to live life together. Time will show, but I am very skeptical. Story 27. Why do you think the divorce rate is so high, my friend? People are doing what they think they are supposed to do. Quit worrying about it and go explore the world. Gather experience. Story 28. 40 now. Everybody got together or got married in their early 20s. At least half had kids. 0 are married today. Some people got back with other people they met in grade school, but none of those first marriages, even with kids, lasted. I know I see on Reddit every day that I'm wasting my life and oh my God, I'm too old to join the military college, make a change now, followed up with, I'm almost 25. I don't have any friends with their lives figured out at 50. Most are single and many are considering or pursuing new careers. Don't worry about everyone else and just focus on yourself. Edit. Since it's apparently a theme in here, I'm from a big city. Story 29. I'm from India, and I see people around me who look at others getting married in their 20s and think they should too. And they get married to their partners with whom they had a long relationship. No, they have an arranged marriage. That's like getting on a train because everyone is, but not knowing where it's going. Arranged marriages are much worse. It's like jumping into the ocean and then trying to learn to swim.